Make sure that you sit comfortably. And notice. Notice with your awareness. Just being attentive of whatever arises. It could be something that you consider internal or external, but it all arises in you. You don't have to bring about anything to be. It just happens. It's unavoidable. Even if you proclaim in this moment that you are somewhere else, that is still happening in this moment. You say that there are too many thoughts. There's too much going on. Still happening in this moment. But the belief of you as a person, of the idea of yourself as the starting point for everything in your life, is simply not true. How can you be an idea when you can be aware of that idea? Then you have to be prior to the idea. Where is the deepest sense of I? Is it located somewhere? Is it in the realm of phenomena? Is it something that can come and go? And if so, what is it coming and going in? The most profound question is not what is the purpose with this life? It is, who are you? Purpose change, come and go, centered around an idea of purpose, of someone living a purposeful life. But in beingness, there is built-in purpose. In beingness, everything is purposeful. Happening itself is purposeful. Because as soon as there is a purpose, there is someone who has a purpose, who are going to fulfill their purpose, and the game is on. But your ideas can steal you away. They can give you the sense that you have to strive for something or you will be purposeless. This is all in the realm of purpose. That is the other side of the coin. But beyond pros and cons, there is you. You are not the thing. You're not the phenomenon. You don't come and go. And everything is happening in you. And what you think that this experience is will be your life. Will be the way that you perceive things. So, what is freedom? We talk about freedom of fears, freedom from beliefs. And it's so easy to take those ideas and think that they're a goal or an accomplishment. But you're already as you are. You're already here in this moment. And as soon as you stop trying to become something else, you will rest here. As soon as you give up any idea of how you relate in time, it will always bring you to this moment. Even for the thinking mind, it's highly logical. But everything in your sadhana, in your practice, is based on experiencing. And you might strive and try and force. And if you get frustrated, I hope it's overbearing. I hope it's too much. I hope that you cannot take it anymore. Because that seems to be open a door. You say that you long for this moment, and it's difficult to understand that it's already here. It's like a cosmic joke. And the ego tries to handle the instructions as if they were instructions. The ego always tries, the heart will always be. Something in you that always longs to be here. But it's so free that it can scare you. It's so bright that it might feel like too much. But the second you stop upholding, the light will come. You won't understand how the light comes because it comes in absence of darkness. And yet the search is often for the light. And so often the question is never what is obscuring the light, what's in the way of it. You can open your eyes, move your body a little bit. I love my teacher. I think, in a way, from one point of view, he was perfect and still is. Because I enjoyed so much people misjudging him. He's not well spoken. He's not super charismatic. He's very simple in his manners and what he knows. And when people saw him on the surface, they sometimes just discarded him. He didn't have anything that was flashy or super interesting. He was just silent. So you had to recognize that he was silent. That's it. I almost overlooked him. I think many people do. But when you remember the silence, mm, you see. You see how it's the same. There is nothing external, really. You might long for things that seem to be out of your reach or somewhere else. But there is nothing external. It's all you. And all the things that you find amazing, they're all in you. All spirituality, all contentment, it's all in you. The most amazing experience in your life comes from you. And we might enjoy this play of shapes and forms and sounds and smells, but it's all you.
But if the so-called outer life is created by our thoughts, then what is creating the life of a newborn? It can be sick, it can die, and things like that.
But what makes you think that the world is just created from thought? This depends on the definition. In the Zen traditions, they talk about the mind in this way, that everything is thought. In non-dual, other non-dual traditions usually would be referred to as consciousness, the experienced world, everything that we can perceive. Everything just happens. And for a newborn that doesn't have much thoughts, it's actually exactly the same as an adult person. For the newborn, there is only the present moment, but that is the same for you. The only difference could be that you believe that you are separate, that there are situations, circumstances in your life, that your life is happening to you instead of through you. And all these ideas of how you create your life through thinking, they of course work because you believe in your thoughts. To a certain degree, all these, if you're into the law of attraction or whatever you like, making lists of what you want to happen in your life, there's quite a good chance that some of those things will happen because you believe in them. But the question is, will you know anything more about yourself from doing that? And hopefully the answer is yes. You will understand that it's worthless, that your dreams will be crushed in it. And I say that in the most loving way. Because if you have dreams, go follow your dreams. But if you think that there will be some kind of fulfillment, some contentment, that will be the piece of the puzzle that will make your life perfect, or feel deep contentment and no longer this searching for another thing or another thing, then I hope your dreams get crushed. Because that makes you much more interested in what in this moment. Don't be afraid of thoughts. If you have a belief that you should use them in some way, or that you can use them somehow, really put that to the test. See if it works. See if it makes you happy. See if it creates permanent change. There's so many things that we can just look at and question. Is your current strategies making you happy? What you believe in will give you satisfaction in your life. Does that give you satisfaction? Do the things that you believe in hold to their promise? Isn't that a good question? Just something to contemplate on. I mean, if you look at those things, you often quite intuitively can just say, yes, I seem to believe very hard in this, but I don't see much promise in the happiness part of it. It just seemed to be a mechanical old habit that I had all my life. Always trying to make it like this, always putting on a silver lining, always putting something to make it sound nice in my head.
You were speaking about like people searching for this light. I can't remember exactly in what context, and and um, and I actually I was touched by Krishna, like reading about him and like hearing those texts in some moments, very touched, and Krishna, and then I heard somewhere that Krishna means darkness, or yeah, pure darkness, or dark blue, or something like, and not that it was opposite to light, but more like,
These things are just symbols.
yeah, exactly. But I just thought it was a good, like, that it actually has a significance that they chose a word that means this in a language.
But there's always the paradox of darkness and light. Because the darkness shows the light. In your life, your fears, they show you freedom. If you have a sense of being trapped, what does that say? It says, I can be free. So somewhere intuitively in you, you know that. Otherwise, you probably won't start some kind of spiritual search. But you start to understand there has to be something beyond my normal scope of things. There is some intuitive sense that says that there is something more. And most people cannot put their finger on exactly what that is. And the drive can still be there for many people from an early age. When you ask them when it started the spiritual search, many people say, I think I already had the tendencies as a child to question and to get the interest into this because it's already there. And this existential longing for truth is very natural in us. But we have something else that we listen to, the egoic mind and its ideas that makes us in two worlds at the same time. But the darkness that the egoic mind can bring can also seem to bring light, depending on your viewpoint of how you look at your thoughts. But the limitations that it brings shows you what freedom is. And most people just try to find a status quo. They try to find a balance in their life where they feel good enough. And then it's like, don't touch anything. Now it's all right. And you really want to protect your life. People who are in that way, they really want to protect it, and they feel my life is good now. I don't want any interference from something else. So most people stay in this pocket.
But that protection, that's contractions. Has to be.
Yes, as soon as you have a sense and a lot of your energy in your life goes out to protect, just to protect your status quo, to protect something that so that it just should stay the same. That is completely fear driven, always. Everything changes.
Actually, when you talk about fear, I was listening to Krishnamurti, and I think this is very significant or profound, because he said he differentiates between fear in like the word fear, like intellectual, and sensation. Like the sensation isn't fear, the sensation are sensations. And then when you put a word to it, then that creates something that actually locks in or creates the kind of fear. Otherwise it would be only sensation.
Yes.
But people kind of take them as one.
Yes, and you could also refer to that as belief. Belief is almost always derived from fear. You create something, an idea that should protect you. I believe in this and this, so I know what I have. And I know what the scope is, and I know which people I belong to, and all these things that comes with protecting and fear. And how you experience the reaction of something. You walk in the forest and you see a wolf, and there arises a sensation of fear in that moment. That is just a sensation, as you talk about now. But this fear that is more like a belief, and I would even go so far as calling it a trance that puts itself in front of your eyes, and you always go around with this fear, and that is how you look at things. So everyone is judged from that standpoint of fear. Then, are you a threat to me, or are you my ally, for example? There are all these kind of, you understand that in every situation there can be this. And if you think that people are using you, you always look for that. And you will assume that in situations because that is already in your agenda. Look at all these things, because they're very difficult to see because you get home blind. You're so used to these fears that if someone would ask you if you're fearful, you would say absolutely not. There's no fear in my life. But that is the fear of the wolf is not the fear that we're talking about. We're talking about the fear of fitting in,
But
the fear of not being accepted, the fear of being weird.
so this kind of almost what you can say like body mind armor that they put up, they wouldn't look at that as fear. They would just look at that as normal personality or normal affairs to be in daily life.
Yes, and you don't have to externalize it. Look if you do it yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I do it, I know. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I mean, if I didn't do it at all, or then I would just be here and it would be completely. But and some of the things you spoke to, I heard some Zen monks. I think they were in France, and they say as soon as we speak English, it's very hard to like or they said at least, this language is very English is very dualistic. I mean, it's hard to speak for them, at least what they say. Like it's hard.
I cannot help you with this one. Is this the comparison to French? I don't.
No. It's not in comparison to. I think it was in I think it was in comparison to Japanese.
Okay.
No, but
I won't be better there. I'm sorry.
okay. Well, at least they said like I think
Yes, but there is a little merit to what you're talking about.
can I finish that?
Yes.
Yeah. They said like each language has a karma, and like yeah, and it's almost like you get like almost like what was
Spellbound.
Spellbound by the language, because it yeah, it kind of brings the language can trap you, and it creates some kind of like who you are and how you feel.
Yes, but the even more than language is the cultural part of that. Because if you cannot question the language in certain ways, or you cannot talk in certain ways, then it becomes very, very limited. You have to be able to question all those ideas. If we talk about something as mental health, and we just refer to it as normal, it's not normal to do that. That's something negative. Then the space for just questioning is very, very small. And you can be so few contexts where you can question that. Because if everyone around you, every time you bring something up, will say, that is not normal, or that is bad, or it's very, very difficult to have a good conversation about it, right? So, so the cultural context of that is very important. And also, if you have some kind of faith, or you're in some kind of you're part of some religious system, also if it's not allowed to question, ask questions about what you are, what is the purpose of this, what is God, what is, then I would say you have to get out if you cannot ask those questions. Those are so fundamental to the human and to our possibility to live a fulfilling life. We have to be able to ask these questions. And I know that we have a society that is more and more polarized, where people are more and more afraid of saying their opinions because it will just offend someone else, which is terrible. Because then how can we talk about important things? If you're always going to walk on eggshells and be like very careful not to offend anyone, it's not good. We have to be able to ask the difficult questions, and also we have to be able to be wrong. We have to be able to ask stupid questions. All those things are good. And if you start to be comfortable with question, that's why contemplation is great. If you ask the hard questions with yourself, what is a happy life? Do the things that I do really bring me happiness in the way that I think that they will? How is the relationship to what I perceive as myself? All these questions. And if you get comfortable with the uncomfortable things, you won't freak out in that conversation with someone. And then there is a possibility for communication and real intimacy. But if you have the idea that you are going to control all other people and they have to do whatever you, however you like, it's going to be a very difficult life. People are going to rebel against you all the time. And they should. Yes. People can be frightened by fear, as you know. You can frighten people and push them around, but at some point they will rebel because you cannot do that all the time. People will always want to be free. However good your arguments are, or how charismatic of a leader you are. At some point, people said, enough of this. And that is a good thing. But if people start to know themselves, they will not be fearful. They will not be pushed around. They will not be interested in things that are along those lines. And from a societal perspective, from a political perspective, it's a sort of chaos. Because if whatever you do, you won't affect the population, I think that would be the politician's worst nightmare. How many YouTube videos you put out and how much money you put into advertising, nothing happens. Because no one is buying it. That would be beautiful. but it has to be, we have to understand from what standpoint we're looking. And where is the change possible? The change is possible everywhere because you are everything. And someone will say, yes, but you just sit on your pillow and meditate. So you don't really do anything for the world. But you are the world. You are everything. You're the whole shebang. And if you change, it changes everything. Everything springs from you. Every conversation will be different if there is no fear in your voice, if there's no fear in your being, if there is freedom. And people will ask you, what is it that you do? How is it possible? I want to feel like that. Usually not.
about people being polarized, having different opinions about. Really, I'm not from this city, but I noticed with this Eurovision thing, people were trying to change everyone in all directions.
Yes.
I mean, everyone. Where does this come from that people want to change? I'm not talking about any specific view, but
Yeah.
why does people want to change other people's worlds so much? Because
Yes, because that would show that you are right and they are wrong. And that is the idea that you are on the good side and they are on the bad side. And all sides always feel like they're on the good side in some capacity. Even if they do terrible things, they do it with some nice tale that it is for God or it is for the greater good or I'm sacrificing myself or whatever it could be. But it always has to do with identity and fear. Because if there is no fear, then there is no problem of meeting someone who has the opposite opinion. But when we say, I cannot be with these people, I don't want to talk to them, I don't want to touch them in any capacity because they think something different than I think, then we create very much a big divide between people. And it was very funny. I saw someone, a clip from the 90s, when someone said with the information society, everyone will have all information. So there won't be almost any polarization because people will be so understanding of it. And it's, and I think that's lovely. It's, very naive in understanding how much identity plays into this. And now that people can sort their social media, they can create really a little bubble of just the kind of views that they like and all the views that they dislike. You can just, I don't want to see this in my feed. You don't have to remove people even. You can just, and you sort slowly, you sort, and there is no opinions that you don't like anymore. It's just a nice homogenic, and it feels like everyone thinks like I do. And then you get very upset when there is the opposite. But this is, yeah, this is a, I think it can only be remedied in the heart. And by that, I mean by knowing yourself. Not by going around telling people they're too polarized, they should come together more, because that is just more of the same thing.
You were mentioning the trance of fear, and I was wondering if you could speak a bit more about that, because I can recognize that when like when you have a bit of fear, you can it's easy to, or not easy, but it's easier to get out of it and to see the fear. But when you have a lot of fear, you get into that kind of trance, and then you just follow along. So I was wondering if you could say something about that.
Yes. The difficult part with that is the invisibility of it. Because you can be quite fearful or you can be quite angry all the time. But it's very polished, it's very nice and very very proper. But always in your conversation, there is a little bit of resentment in everything. You notice people like this probably around you. Yes. And all these kind of, or some kind of bitterness all the time seeping through, even though the person really tries to be positive and put the silver lining on things, and like to put post-it notes on their mirror where it says the day starts with a smile or something. And they're really trying, but through the cracks come this seeping bitterness of things, these beliefs. So we're often so blind to that, or we can be quite aware of it, but we don't really see ourselves in that. We are very much a victim. We're very personalized in that. We have a very strong idea of who we are in that and why it's happening to me. And there's usually because of my parents, because of my upbringing, because of my environment, because of my. And many of those things also lock it completely. Then it can be made done. Then the door is closed on it. This happened because of that, and now I'm like this, and this trauma makes me blah blah blah, and even when you start to have an interest in opening that door, that usually for most people seems to be just a way of, then that is all you talk about. Then the egoic mind just grabs hold of it completely, and you talk about your healing and your traumas, and that's what all that you talk about with your friends. You have spiritual or friends who are into personal development, and all you talk about is this. But that's also another way for the egoic mind to have a proper, to seem proper with it, to have a nice facade that it seems like I'm relatable and I'm like this and this, but you're not really looking at the root. It's very common that it's just these conversations time and time again, and you should be very skeptical of your practice and the way that you um, of your sadhana if nothing changes. Then you really have to look at things and really question: is what I'm doing, is it really understanding myself, or am I just delusional, or am I just into another thing and another thing? And when you move, like some people do, move from personal development to different personal development groups or different spiritual groups, you notice that you move with you the same tendencies, even if you change your surrounding environment. You notice that, this happens again. This happens again. Because you believe in the same things and you're fearful of the same things, and you don't see them, so they just continue. They just transform. And the egoic mind love this, because that means that it can still operate even if you move from, you're interested in dancing and now you're interested in spirituality, and it just applies the same things that you had with you to your spiritual search. Then you notice that it's just for that part is just for the egoic mind. It loves that. And then it has, especially that it has something. It hates to have nothing. There is something to talk about. There's something to be part of. There's something to be identified with. So this is also, don't believe for a second that just because you're interested in spirituality, all those things are out the window. They come along. They sit here.
I was wondering, like you spoke about opinions before, and I suppose like if we see ourselves as we are awareness, this pure awareness can obviously not have opinions, but from your view, the body mind of Atmananda Does that? Do you have like stronger opinions now, or like could you just give us a review of how?
Give a quick review of how you perceive your reality. Okay. Let's talk about it like this. What is going on and what is perceived are two different things. Because if you want your actions to be very karma-less, to not create any karma, in certain situations, there has to be a very strong reaction to certain things because they cannot continue. They don't have validity. And in certain situations, you won't care at all. But that is just the expression of the body and the expression of that. So it will be perceived as certain opinions are very important. And it will be perceived that certain things are not important. But from the standpoint of experiencing, everything is just happening. So there is not because the question wants something to relate to. It wants a strategy. It wants to know something that is not knowable, like that. The present moment will just happen. And if you believe in something that makes you fearful about it, or there is an agenda with it, or then that will come into play, and that will create in turn create karma. And then you will have to live that karma, and it will affect you. And you will notice if it affects you for a long time, or if it's very quick. And if it's very quick, it means that it weakens. But if it's very long, there is a lot of identity with it, then it's like that.
Thank you very much.
You want to say something more? No. Yes?
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, when you say it intuitively, it feels right. So I'm very happy that you said it. But
Yes.
but
And
can I just finish?
yes.
Yeah. Because culturally, I feel like this, some of these things have been painted on me so deeply, like they just have been violently overridden, like some kind of barrier, and kind of like being forced onto me. So, and I think that it has become like, yeah, something that I unconsciously carry with me, like, yeah, this is not good to be like this because people really don't. So I'm very, very happy that you share that. Yeah. And yeah, if you don't mind, I think you can share a lot of things with, I mean, I think a lot of like in psychology, they would benefit a lot to speak to more like deeply experienced meditators. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
I just want to underline something in this, because it's very easy to have ideas of how we're going to make the world a nicer place, but make yourself into the world is much more important, because then you will also not feel that the world has to change in that way, because that idea also springs from the egoic mind, that it is not as it should be. It is exactly as it should be. And the peace that comes with allowing yourself to be as you are brings more of that. That's it. And then the world will seem to be exactly as it should be. Even with all its terrible things and all the things that are happening, it is as it should be, because the part of it, because this is not a philosophy. It's not a philosophical standpoint of not reacting to the world. That is not at all what we're talking about here. Because in the situation where there is a possibility to do something for someone else or help someone or do something humane, is much bigger chance that you will do that if you're not with fear. If you're fearful, you will refrain from doing that because it might harm you, or you're afraid of all these things. But if you're not fearful, you will just help. And all these ideas that we have, that why a homeless person or someone is homeless, and why it's not a good idea of helping them because you're afraid of that they will use the money for drugs, or all these ideas that people walk around with when we view other people, and not with the understanding that that could easily have been my reincarnation. I could have been this person. There's just a matter of circumstances. But we have such a strong belief in that everyone can make themselves, and I'm a self-made person and all this, that we also dismiss, in our arrogance of that, we dismiss everyone that we see as losers or are in different position in society. They are just another flavor of you. You can keep the mic this time.
Okay. But a lot of the people who we see as losers might be a lot more sane than the ones that we see as kind of accomplished or whatever we
Yes,
want to see them.
my point is completely that there is no difference between people like that.
Yeah.
But you have to look to see that. Otherwise, you will just be your ideas, because the idea of the person brings with it all these agendas and all these beliefs, and then you look at the world through that. Your idea of your political view, your idea of what other people are, your cultural idea, everything. But if you are with this moment, you will see people in this moment. And if you see them in this moment, you will see that they are the same as you are. There is no difference. There is no difference. It's just a difference of perception between different people. But there is in depth no difference.
But like, yeah, maybe this is not so much to this subject. But I just have like a kind of like a ethical or moral or ethical question. Like, for example, if someone would say like I have to do this to be fine, to kind of be healthy, then if they believe in that, and if they don't do that, do you think that the belief in that they have to do that is,
Yes, but
but it's a kind of like, sometimes some people need to do certain things too, right?
Yes, but who is the believer? What are we looking from the standpoint of when you ask that question? You understand? And also, if you see yourself as separate, you can have all kinds of ideas what will make what you need in your life. You can need in your life to push others down to feel better. But is that a good way to go about your life? You understand? You can feel all kinds of needs that feels very dire to you, very important to you, but they can be extremely destructive. So that's why you have to look. That's why the most important thing is to know yourself, because otherwise you will do a lot of things in the world from the idea of being a separate person, and you will create more separation in that. It's such a big part of it, because if you all the time push your agendas, your ideas on others, they will resist. As you see time and time again, people play this game. Someone has an idea that many buy into and think is a very good idea, and they start to push it like now society as a normal homogenic entity should believe this, and there is pushback, and there's because people's egos get pushed into corners. Their world gets smaller. And also that if they resist a belief, their own belief gets stronger. Oh, now people seem to hate my political party. I have to fight more for it. People become like the egoic mind thrives in resistance. In acceptance, there is nothing. But it's not about creating some kind of utopia world, because that comes from the egoic mind.
Sometimes when you hear some like spiritual figures, they seem to I mean, at least as I heard it or interpreted it, like for example Krishnamurti, I know he spoke about vegetarian food sometime and about certain things, or like overeating, or like these kind of matters. And then I mean, sometimes it seems like he's pushing like like that he has that opinion, and that he said that it's something very ugly to I mean that's super
Yes,
biased.
yes, but and there will always be opinions, and you can have ideas of uh, it. Many people who practice meditation eat a vegetarian diet because the idea is that you harm less, and there are even some schools that say you have to be vegetarian or you cannot really. All these kinds of ideas, but I would find it a shame that people would have those associations from my standpoint, because then you think that you're automatically disqualified if you eat meat.
That's awful.
Yes,
To kind of like
yes,
exclude
but
people.
everything has its context.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's important to question everyone and everything, right?
yes, but
Or
but even more important is to ask, what is this one? This one that I assume to do a lot of things, and that I assume that the world comes from. Who is that?
To jump back to what we were talking about fear earlier, and just share weird realization I had as like maybe 14, 15-year-old about being sad or happy as something that changed my life very quickly, which put me into the snowball of just being sad and sad and sad. And to relate it to fear is that I think that for it had such an impact on me, where I saw the rest of my life and everybody around me to just continue living their life. And in this whole situation, I think what fear pushed me to keep being sad was that I wasn't afraid of being happy. I was more afraid of not being able to feel the sadness that I felt around this thing that happened to me. And because I was feeling so that everything around me just continued, and that so many things in our lives has such a little actual impact on what's happening in the world, and that we're so meaningless, so to say. But and to relate back to what you said, that without darkness it can be light, and vice versa. And yeah, I thought it was quite a nice realization, since you wanted to bring it back to fear. And yeah, I had a realization about it, that as soon as I had that, I think I actually could allow myself to be happy, since I always knew that this sort of grief inside of me was always very close, and always will be very close, but in a more beautiful and controlled manner. And then also another thing I had about fear, that I actually had a beautiful conversation about last week with a friend of mine. And actually two of my friends had discussed how they perceive me as sort of fearless, because I was taking very much risks, that was having a huge impact on my life. But rather for me, as for them, as they are very comfortable and don't want to go into fearful positions, where it's, for me, it was more of fear of staying in a position where I wasn't satisfied. It wasn't the fear of the unknown, more than the fear of being in an unknown that I wasn't satisfied with.
But this is a great point about fear, because many people think of their fear as very natural, and they also compare their fears with others and see that many people have the same fears. But people are very different in their makeup when it comes to fears. And things that you might have feared before, you fear no longer. And you can also have brought about new fears. Suddenly you're in a new situation and you buy into something and you buy a new fear. So there's a lot of movement in what we call fear. And for one person can be fearful of the opposite from another. One person can be afraid of being locked into a steady job and mortgage, and they can feel fear of all those things. And the next person would feel fear of being so free and not having a steady income. And can you bring the mic closer?
Well, maybe hesitate earlier, because I guess that it resonated so well with me, what you said about that your fears in, let's say, if I have a fear in this, I have a fear of speaking. I'm still gonna have a fear of speaking if I go and play tennis. I'm gonna have a fear of speaking if I go to a book club. Like it doesn't matter. You always bring your fears, but yeah, it resonated with me very much. That and I thought that it was very nice to perceive it that way, and actually rather go to the root problem. Because with what I just said, that I'm more fearful to be in the same place and not be sort of satisfied. I'd rather go and do something else and see how I will develop in this new situation. But my fear is always going to be to remain in the same position and be uncomfortable. And exactly as you say.
Yes. Yes. So yes, and if that is a fear that follows you, it probably will until the day that you see that everything comes and goes. Because there's a very common fear with feelings that they're gonna stick, that they're sticky and that they won't change, that you will be locked in some kind of unpleasant condition and you cannot break it. Like if anything in this experience would be that static. But that is what the mind, the kind of game the mind plays. But it's actually quite easy to see that. Because if you just watch your emotional reactions, your thoughts, even the sensations of the body, you notice that there is constant movement. Even if you would say there is I have anxiety, I have this feeling, it still moves, it still changes. You identify with it, you disidentify with it, it moves all the time. So everything has a lot of fluidity, but we have a belief, and if we only listen to the belief, then the experience can seem very static and it can seem very stuck. But the present moment is a dance, always moves.
I want to talk about, ask about recommendations for fear as well. Whenever I go to an environment like this, or similar environments, it feels really nice and like a really good bath or massage, something like brain massage, or I don't know.
Mhm.
And I was here 1 week ago. Yeah, 1 week ago. And when I'm here and everything is like relaxed and quiet, and I'm like, what did I do all this week? Just running around, trying to cope with daily life. And I feel a bit angry at myself that I get into this, I would say, rush.
Is it that you get some clarity when you're here? It feels like, oh, I'm back.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
back. I'm back,
Yes.
and I'm like, where was I all weekend?
Mm.
Now I'm a bit. I have resentment to go back out, because I know that out there
You will go back into your old patterns,
and
your old
become
habits.
and be victim for my feelings,
Yeah.
victim for this fear.
Mm.
I guess the obvious thing is to go to. I think you said last week, I had a similar question, and you said, okay, do more meditation.
Mm.
But since I'm a beginner in this type of meditation things, do you have any recommendations for this? I think probably other people also had similar thing, that they don't want to go back to,
Yes.
yeah, to real life.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm. From the opposite standpoint, this is the time a week where you remember. You remember who you are. You recognize something again. Ah, this deep intuitive sense of just being. That's a nice thing. That is peace. That is real peace. And when you start out, it's easy to have the feeling that it is something external. It is because I am in this room with Atmananda. It feels peaceful here. People are so peaceful. Many people here meditate a lot. So of course, and that's very easy to make that assumption. But this peace that you recognize here it comes from you. It's always in you. But in your daily life, you go into your mind, you go into your ideas, you go into your identifying with your thoughts, and you run around. What is it that Rumi says? You run around like always looking at you, Ola. I think that you I think he says like a haunted ghost. Something like that. But in your daily life, you so easily lose the balance, so you think very much that it has to do with this moment. But I just want to tell you that this peace that you experience now and last week, and it comes from you. It's just that the stillness in you recognizes the stillness here. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. And why I tell you that you should do your sadhana, that you should do some meditation practice. Remind me before you leave today, that because I can print some papers for you with some different meditations. If anyone else wants, you can of course also have. I have a couple of them. And you can just have it with you, and it's very easy, like 10 steps instructions, very like matter of fact. Sadhana. Yes.
I have a follow-up question. 10 years ago, I went to, like many people in Sweden, for 1 year to Australia. And the nature there, and the humidity in the air, and laid-back people also gave me this peace of mind, and I really enjoyed it. And since then, I have been trying to chase the same thing, but I don't know if, okay, then I should move there, or if I should just take the challenge of finding peace in myself anywhere,
Yes.
not
And
just in a
and I'm not gonna
no personal advice. Like I'm not asking for like, should I do this or that?
No,
Just,
I understand.
Yeah.
But it is good to be in context where you feel peaceful and where you can connect with this. It is very helpful for your sadhana to come back to a setting like this, or some setting where you feel peaceful and you feel safe, and you can go deeper and you can ask your questions and have your answers questioned, and it's very helpful. So that's why I'm sitting here. If I wouldn't believe that, I wouldn't be here. So, and very much, I think for many people, when they start practicing meditation, it's very difficult. But because even nowadays, when there is a lot of apps where you can get help, it's nothing compared to sit with a group of experienced meditators and talking with a teacher. It's completely different. And to just on the level of the stillness in yourself, to just connect to that. And in the beginning, it feels like something external. I go there, I feel peaceful. Like you said, it feels like I'm coming here, I get my brain massaged a little bit, I get on the right track, and after a few days in my normal life, I'm back in all my old fears. And then you come again next week, and you again have a little break until you come to the point where it starts to stabilize in you. That's all I want to do here. I want it to come from you. That's why I'm telling you it comes from you. That you start to realize that this peace is in me. That me and whatever object I have of that peace in my surrounding, if it's a picture of Ananda Mayama, or if it's just being here with me, or whatever you have, that at some point comes to the point where you feel it is the same. The peace that I perceived from the outside is now inside. Oh.
Yeah.
He was first, I think.
It's equally as much as a question and a statement as this is my third time that I'm doing this here. But I had a conversation about Marcus, with Marcus, about the exact same thing, where I sort of wanted to know how I should meditate, or what you would recommend. And you said something that was very beautiful, and it just baffled me as I asked how much you were meditating. And he looked me in the eyes and he says, "What makes you think I'm not meditating right now?" And that's something that is just so profound, that there's nothing that shouldn't, or that there's nothing that should stop me from being in this peace of mind states all through the day.
Yes.
And I thought that was beautifully said.
We compartmentalize so much. We say that this is my meditation practice, this is my sadhana, I do this and this, but at some point, there should be no difference between folding your laundry and doing your sadhana. And especially you will find that especially the things that are that don't take too much intellectual capacity, that you just do something very physical and very simple tasks, that they are beautiful because it's so easy to just be with them. If it's more heady, it takes more, it's much more challenging. But as soon as it's just doing simple things, and if you're cooking and don't have to measure too much or think about it too much, you can just intuitively also cook.
Yeah. And after you said it, I really tried to sort of, exactly like you say, when there's not too much focus that's going on, to actually try to be present in whenever you can, and have those authentic moments where you find where you feel very peaceful. And I found it both challenging and also very charming and beautiful when I actually feel like I reach that sensation of peace of mind in my everyday life, and to try to sort of come back to it all the time, and remind myself.
Yes.
As soon as I wander away and get negative or fearful or whatever.
Yes. The best thing, if in any situation where you also come into an emotional state, if you have the clarity, just be with the emotion as it is. Just allow it to play out in you as it is expressed. And I don't mean expressed outwardly, just how it feels. And you will notice, if you come back to it, if you remember it time and time again, it will be easier. And you will remember it in the situations where you before was completely out of balance, where you're completely taken by the trance of the mind. You will suddenly, there will just be an opening that is the clarity. Oh, observe. And it doesn't have to be a word or anything. There is just you just remember. You just remember that it is nicer to be with it as it is than to go on this long ride and try to solve it with the mind and everything that just amplifies this continuation of separation and fragmentation of the mind that creates.
Can I ask a question?
Yes. Wait, I'm going to give you some. No.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't know for how long, but for a while now, I've noticed that I've kind of like lost interest in a lot of things. And even now when we're sitting and talking, there's this deep stillness and I hear the words, but it's like it means nothing. And it's the mind compares it to how absorbed I was in the words before. But it's impossible to compare. It just kind of happens. And then there's like this irritation comes up. It's like, why am I not interested? But there's this deep, deep, deep stillness. And even it doesn't matter what I listen to, or if I listen to anything. It just kind of happens different. It can be music, or if I watch a movie, or if I listen to satsang, or if I read a book, it just kind of happens. But there's no like, I want this, you know?
I understand.
There's almost like, I don't want it.
Yes, but I think that many people who seek in any way spiritually have felt periods where they parts in their life where they felt very that the fire is burning. They really, really want it. They maybe go on their first retreats. They really push for. They start to sit a lot. It's really you really start to want it, and that flame is always after a while diminished, because that flame is from the egoic mind that really hopes that it's going to go better and quick if I put a lot of effort in. So at some point you start to understand that, okay, that this is not how it works. And it feels very stiff and it can feel very forced, this. And different people, depending on your and your psychological makeup, you can be very different how you are with these things. But some people are really the doer, and if you have that kind of energy, it's you might come into that. But when you start to be interested in just peaceful part of it, you get much more laid back in it. You will understand that there is nothing to force. There's still some interest in doing the sadhana. You still want to know, but there is not this, because you know that you cannot grab it and pull yourself towards it, or it towards you. There is no force like that, and then you start to relax, and this is a beautiful relaxation. And I think one of the monks that I liked very much in India, Govinda, the first time I met him, I think I felt a bit nervous meeting. There were a lot of monks, and I sat next to him and I tried to make a little bit of small talk with him. And he just looked at me, smiled, and said, "No need." And I think he just embodied very much this peace that I am talking about. We always try to, we are so alert in making everyone comfortable, everything. And with his simple, he just understood that I just try to make conversation to make him feel at ease, or me at ease, probably most. And he was just, no need. And so, and you will lose interest in things. If you start to look at yourself more, you will lose interest in things. 100%. Because many of the things that you have interest in are because of fear, or because you have a feeling that you have to uphold the person or uphold some. And if your interest in that diminishes, you won't be interested. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
I was thinking about Adam's question. You were asking about fear and something about meditation techniques too, right? Or like what? Something like in that man. So I was just thinking about chanting. That it feels like it would be very good if we have fear.
Yes, yes. And as I said to Adam, I will give him some meditation techniques, and one of them is mantra, Omkara mantra. I just want to check if Cecilia got her answer to her question. I just felt that we changed very abruptly. Okay?
I think so.
Yes, good. Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my dear.
Hello again. I have a question. Today we speak about mind, ego, and fear. What should I do with this, not this person, but this side of me? Or should I treat it as a annoying person, or a baby that doesn't know better? Or is it evil, because it's always, sabotaging everything, ruining the experience of being. I'm not sure how to relate to this.
It won't help you to strategize and to define it more, or try to push it away, or label it like that. The best thing is if you can very naturally just allow it to be. And with that, I mean, you have to be conscious of it. You have to be aware of it. But don't try to tinker with it. Can you understand that?
But what does it want? What is the purpose of it?
Yes. Yes.
Is,
Okay. Let's talk about this, because the purpose of the egoic mind and its agenda is to stay relevant, is to exist. Because to the egoic mind, if it doesn't have any validity to exist, to the ego, that is death. It will present that to you as dying. And it can seem completely absurd, and but you can feel it on an emotional level. In your meditation, the ego can say things like, if you continue this, you will die. And you start to feel the fear of dying. But that is completely by sitting on a pillow. What do you mean? You ask the ego. But that is because to the egoic mind, it just wants to stay relevant. That's why when you start with meditation, it seeps into meditation. Whatever you're interested in, it is interested in. It wants to talk about it. It wants to strategize about it. It wants to know how how do I relate to the egoic mind. That question is also from the egoic mind. Because that question says, I am something separate that has to relate to my thoughts. And now I don't know, do I have to relate to them as a little baby? Do I have to? This is just another part of the mind trying to know how to relate to the mind. This is the same game. That's why you won't feel any freedom in that. You can investigate that. You can have different attitudes towards your thinking, but it will make very little difference because you will all the time take you as someone who has to relate to this egoic mind. And that is more ego. So the only way is to come back to the stillness. And for most people, this is very difficult to accept because they're so used to taking on everything with their mind. And the only way to use your mind, to get out of your mind, is to question, who am I? And this is also sadhana. And that question is not to get an intellectual answer. It is to find the source of the sense of I. And the source of that has no center, is not a person. It is just awareness. And if you look for it, that is all you will find. Or as you will probably put it, I don't find anything. Because it's not a perceivable thing. What you are is not a perceivable thing. There is not a person inside your body. You are the space in which this body happens and all the things that you perceive happens. That is the right way of looking at the world. Everything is perceived in you, even this body. You are prior to thoughts. You're prior to your ideas of your identity. You're prior to your emotions. You're prior to the body. Yes.
I was thinking about now in psychological treatments, it's become more popular with self-compassion and that sort of influences. But that would also be feeding the ego.
Yes, and it's not that simple of an answer actually when it comes to it. What in Buddhist traditions calls the metta bhavana, or these kind of practices, which is like empathy practices. You could say you spreading your empathy to more people, or or you do it towards yourself, like it's some kind of active self-love. And all these things are very good because on a personal level, on a relative level, the goal is not to uphold any practice, but the practice of including yourself. If you don't feel like you're including yourself, for example, in your empathy, that you're always last. Many people have this, that are very nice to other people, that if they're going to have a great dinner, they make everything super nice, but if they're alone and they're going to make their own dinner, it's a terrible dinner, because they always value themselves as much less than others. They always do more. For that kind of personality, I think it's great to to do ritual. You can do small rituals where you really, if you make a meal for yourself at some point, you make it really, really nice. You make it as you make it for your master, for your guru. Put everything as nice as you can, and you present it super nicely, and you just eat it. No one else ever sees it. You don't post it on Instagram, nothing. You just eat the meal as a ritual to really show that this one is also prioritized. And I think my teacher was great with these things. They're very simple, but he was always very encouraging of people who had low self-esteem. He always encouraged them a lot, and everything they did was great. And the people who are too big-headed, he hit them a little bit with a stick. Because they get out of balance for thinking that they're too great. He had like famous some Indian man who owned a lot of newspapers in India, who came, and with him he could be right. And some of the monks also thought they were very holy, and he was a bit on them. And there was some one of my friends, Kara, she had always excused herself for everything, and he was always like, oh, so good. Oh, did you make this food, Kara? Delicious. He was always praising her because that the person who feels very small needs to be a little bit bigger to be able to have their head, because otherwise you cannot take it, because otherwise it gets too much with the spiritual and the inquiry and questioning it, because you're already, you feel so small already. You have to be a little bit big. And for the one who is too big, always thinks that they're too great, so they cannot really they think they already know everything. They have they have all the traits of arrogance. So they need to be chopped a little bit. I don't know if this is exactly on point what you were asking, and what kind of.
I was thinking about my own practice, how I've been meeting my own fears and difficult emotions that for a while I've been trying to meet it, like when I'm sitting in meditation, I'm trying to meet it with a lot of love and taking care of it and compassion and that. And in other periods of time, I have just been trying to observe it and stay neutral. And I was kind of wondering which way to be.
Yes, but in all those approaches, there's always this, because from where this question comes from is, I'm not sure that I'm doing right. And this part is more important than any specific practice. You understand? Because that is the that insecurity with it. That is how you approach every meditation technique. So I would again go back and question, who is feeling like that? Who is unsure if I'm doing right? Go to all the time to the source of it. I think this would be the best practice for you, not to focus too much in these techniques. Mm. And if anyone is watching on the stream, I can just say that there are PDFs on my Facebook, but if you're here, I can print them for you. And you can get for self-inquiry, and I will give to whoever wants. It's just very good to have on paper, or so that you can read the instructions very, very easily. There is some uncertainty. You may. Yeah, did you have the feeling today, Ola, that you didn't have enough?
No, no, but this just seems because I don't know if you know about him, but this was Anand Malai Swami, I think it's called. He's one of the disciple of Ramana, and he said like, if you meditate and think you're the little self that are going to become like going to the big self, to it will be very difficult. And I mean, this is what he shared at least, and it's more beneficial if you exchange the wrong ideas, like that you're this little person and all this, and change it to something that is more closer to what is the true affairs.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just thought that was relatable.
Yes. Yes. If you're going to believe in something, believe in what's true. It's good advice. Because if you go about things on false premises, which most people do, they try to change things that, and they don't understand where they're not changing. But it's because the premises for it are not true. So then it's impossible. Because it also seems like the universe really wants you to know yourself. If you show interest in it, as soon as it has the chance, it just comes to your, and it can bring it about in the most strange ways, as I think many of you know. But yeah, sorry. I lost your question.
Yeah, I just sort of wanted to share that and pointed out that
Yes.
he said that can be a very good meditation for some people to change the wrong ideas to
Yes.
ideas that
Yes.
come closer to what is actually true. So yeah, and then you said believe in that which is true.
I'm saying it like that as a little bit of a joke, because of course, but and I think it's very good to also clarify, because we talk about truth here, but it has nothing to do with relative truth. It has to do with experiencing this moment as it is, and what that is, and what you are. It is not, I have this opinion or that opinion. And in the beginning, when I heard different teachers talk, I thought that the most difficult thing was to understand how important. I remember I felt very frustrated, and I felt like what this teacher is talking about now, I would like to have a grade between 1 and 5. How important is this? That's how I felt. Like, is this really important, or is it just some opinion of something, or lesser important? And I, of course, realized that it comes to you as it comes to you. But I understand how that can feel confusing when is this a thing that is really true, or is this an opinion? And there has to be some movement. There has to be some wiggle room to be able to talk about meditation, because you have to address that you relate to yourself as a person that is separate. And if you never talk like that, there are some teachers that never talk like that, but most people don't understand anything of what they say. Nisargadatta can be like that sometimes. He just, people talk to him about something relative, and he just goes on a complete, he just talks from the standpoint of the absolute, the truth, all the time. And I think that is needed, but I think there has to be some softness there to also meet people where they are. And I think that some of the practices that are therapeutic, or like these self-love metta practices, these kind of things, I think that they are very helpful. And I think for the right person in the right situation is perfect. And also all these kind of therapeutic techniques where you express your emotions, active meditations, shaking your body, screaming, whatever you do. I think there, for the person that has a lot of things built up, that is beautiful. So I think that there are many, many things in the relative domain that make sense, but I think there is so much focus on that that is very important to come to the core of things, and to really look at who you are. Okay. Thank you.